Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So, let's start off with Nancy and Craig because I'm going to be honest, I felt like this was the weakest part of this episode. Craig comes over to, just be a sounding board, somebody to sit there and listen to her. Nancy was there when the whole debacle or whatever happened with him and Leo. So, he wants to sit there and return the favor. It gets into this weird point in the conversation where Nancy looks at Craig and Craig is like, "Oh, are you thinking that we should get back together?" And they go through this stupid scenario. Okay, let's just be very clear. We can be together again. I mean, it's more than just intercourse when it comes towards relationships, and we may not have the happiness that we deserve, but we can still be happy or whatever. And they both kind of like agreed at the beginning, and I'm like, this conversation is so wrong for so many reasons. So many reasons. I don't understand why we're sitting there entertaining this. Just and at first, because I read the description, and I was like, no, 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 no. Do not sit there and tell me that you're gonna sit there and get back together with this man who's been lying to you for a while, who cheated on you for a while, and you're just like, well, I mean, I tried the whole luck thing. I tried the whole going out with somebody new, and that didn't work out. So, since we're familiar, we like each other. As far as like we can stand each other's company, yeah, let's do it again. I was like, are you serious? But of course, they realized just how much of a brain dead, stupid idea that was, and he was like, nah, this isn't a good idea. So they decided to just be better with his friends and, continue to sit there and look for love because otherwise, just giving up seems depressing and pointless. So, conclusion, that whole conversation, their whole scene went exactly nowhere. So while Chad is there helping out Stephanie, Paulina comes in and just starts roasting her. Well, not roasting her, but just like really starts going in on her. Oh, what's going on with the campaign? And you're not sitting there doing any flyers or anything like that. What's going on? Da 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 da. If you can't do it, then I'll find somebody else. And Chad stepped in. Chad was like, "Yo, listen, her mom is in the hospital. You might want to just give it a minute." And of course, she was like, "Yeah, okay, no, I understand, but if things was going bad, you could have delegated and stuff like that." Apparently, her conscience started to really get to her, and she really did um hone it down a lot and did apologize for coming at her that way. I mean, in reality, Stephanie could have just told her the truth, and she would have been a lot more sympathetic, other than thinking that she could just handle Titan and Pauline at the same time. So, I mean, the point is, Paulina did apologize. She realized, because at first, Chad was not there helping her out, and Paulina was like, "Oh, why don't you sit there and get your assistant?" She never met Chad before. So, when, Stephanie was like, "No, no, this is my friend Chad Tamara," he also had to sit there and apologize, because there was one point where Chad kept going, and she was like, "No, no, 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 no. Let's just have a conversation. Just me and her, whatever." And kind of disrespecting him in kind of a way, because he wasn't just sticking up for it. It's like, no, 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 this is between me and her. I was like, I don't know, I felt like I probably would have been a little bit different about it. Like, I probably would have took a more dickish way. Point is, she did sit there and apologize for what happened to his wife and everything like that. And, at the end, they all made up. So, Chad was like, "I'm gonna sit there and help you out because I got to keep my mind busy on something." So seeing them together, seeing the way they were just kind of flowing and stuff and looking at each other, I looked at the whole thing. I was like, "Alex, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's done. It's done, zone." Yeah, that's Chad's new girl right now. You might want to find somebody else. What else could he actually find? That's something to think about. It was like, who else could he actually sit there and find? There's one point in this, because I know I'm telling this out of order. There's one point in this episode where Leo was talking to Julie, and he was saying, "No, I know who you are. You're Julie. You're grandmother to so and so or something something." And he was like, the family is kind of. Oh, what words did he use? It was one point where he said to Julie, he was like, "Yeah, this family tree is kind of inbreded," and it is. And I'm sitting there wondering, when they originally made this show, did they realize just how complicated their family tree is? And when you stop and think about it, you got um, Ali, whose grandfather is Victor. You have Sierra, whose grandfather is Victor. And I don't think that Sierra is a Horton. So I don't, it's just so weird, you know? I mean, you got Sarah, who is the daughter of Maggie. You got Victor, who is the uncle of Xander. Now Victor and Maggie are married, so wouldn't that be like? Wouldn't they technically be stepbrothers, stepbrother or stepbrother and step siblings? And yet they're married. What? Like you can understand just how? I mean, I say this to people who've been watching this for a while. And then, you're probably sitting there looking at me like, no, 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 it makes sense. And yeah, it makes sense when you've been watching this for a very long time. But I've been watching this show for 3 years, and I'm just now sitting there thinking, like, technically, y'all are like stepbrothers. I mean, or step siblings. There's a word for that, and I can't remember. I don't know what it is, but the point is, like, y'all are. I mean, you're not blood related, but like anyway. So Leo comes over, and he's pretty much going to blackmail Jack. And, Jack was like, hey, listen, I got to go to the bank, yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, Gwen has a change of heart. Gwen is like, I care about you, and, I did a lot of stuff to your family, and you still allow me to have a relationship with Jack, and you lost so much. And, more importantly, Jack's lost a lot. And she mostly did it for Jack. And she did it for a lot of reasons, but also Jack. Jack's lost a lot. He already lost his daughter. Losing his wife. Because Jennifer was like, I'm going to sit there and tell the cops. And I was like, all right, cool. Listen, I understand Jennifer's story. I get that she lost a daughter. That is a parent's worst nightmare, is to have outlived their children. So I get that. But there's a point where Jennifer was like, all right, we already lost our daughter. You know, you could have lost your daughter because of what I did. You know? And she came back, and at first she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And for me, I was just like, if this was a simple hit and run, and she was not under the influence, I would have understood. Okay, when you do what you do, you make a choice, and I get it. She was in a lot of pain, and I listen. People handle stuff in their own way, and I get it. And I mean, I always agree with it, but at least I understand the foundation of where that comes from. But when you do that and you step into a vehicle, this is where I have issues. Um, so while Gwen was like, I'm gonna give you mercy, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna just let it go. And Jack comes in there and she's like, Leo doesn't have anything if I'm not gonna testify, and I'm not gonna testify. I'm like, that's good, and hopefully she gets the help that she needs. But for me, I just something about obviously something about getting behind the wheel of a vehicle, um, under the influence of something just bothers me. I can't just let that go. But Jack does come back, and Jack pretty much kicks Leo out the house after Julie walks in, and Julie's like, "Yo, what are you doing here?" They go back and forth. Jack kicks Leo out, hugs Jennifer. Um, Now, before Doug and Julie was at Laura's gravesite, they were talking about Gwen a little bit. Doug was like, "Yo, Gwen said it was an accident." Now, I understand where Julie's coming from to some extent. I mean, not the lying part, but the feeling of, regardless if it was on purpose or an accident, you gotta sit there and wonder just exactly how much that changes. I mean, your family member's dead. And it does it really, you know what I'm saying? Like the emotion is still there. You took my family member away. And I'm supposed to sit there and look at it and be like, oh, well, it was an accident. So I can't do that. Anyway, they were there. They were talking to some guy named Mike Horton, which I still gotta sit there and watch the previews for that because I don't really know much about him. Apparently, he ran into Nancy, and maybe they have history. But for me, I was just like, I don't know. To be fair, I felt the same way about Philip when I first heard he was coming to town and stuff like that. And it seemed like, oh my goodness, it's Philip, and it was like, yeah, I don't really get it. By the end of his tenure of being on the show, he actually made me like him, surprisingly, and I'm still shocked to this day about that. But yeah, they made me like him. So this is where it's about time for me to go to sleep. But yes, I don't really know much about this Mike guy. He just comes in and he says he's there for Jennifer. I'm gonna take her to rehab because she's just going through it. So he stays. They chat a little bit. He stays to, I guess, pay more of his respects to Laura. He talks to that the Horton Square. And then he runs into Nancy. So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna be a thing. I don't really know much about this guy, so I can't gauge him. You know, I'm like, is he gonna be dangerous? Is he gonna be boring? I have no idea. I feel like that's about it for the most part. I mean, there was a point, I almost forgot as I was listening to this, like getting ready to close out the video. There was a part where Leo did talk to Gwen again because she wasn't happy with Leo as far as blackmailing Jack, blackmailing the family. And later on, Gwen called Leo and was like, "Yo, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to ruin my relationship with my dad? Like, it's fragile. It's on thin ice as it is. Like, what are you doing?" And Leo's like, "Yeah, yeah, no, but I was trying to do in your best interest and yada yada yada." But I feel like for the most part they're gonna be cool. Now afterwards he hung up the phone because he was like, "Yo, I got a bunch of medical." No, he was like, "I got a bunch of legal bills," and apparently the lawyer that was um working for Leo, apparently he promised her a bunch of like deals or whatever. Anyway, she's suing him. So he's like, "Oh, who's gonna sit there and cover this?" Yada yada yada. Hangs up the phone, and he sees Craig right there. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. At least the most pertinent information. So with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.